Hardest one yet? I think it's good. It has to be good. Staple. Staple card.
But this might get him.
You're starting to worry me. I'm getting worried. Come on, tell it. Tell it to me.
Staple card.
Welcome to another episode of Staple or Stinker here with our Yu-Gi-Oh host, Taylor.
Hi, everyone.
Yes, Taylor has proven to be very, very good in the latest episodes of Staple or Stinker, so I upped up the difficulty. Those are really hard cards to assess.
Oh, I'm excited then.
And yeah, they're either staples, meaning they're very good at magic, they have some good applications, sometimes even banned, or they're stinkers, meaning they're kind of not fulfilling what they want to do or are just not good. Mm-hmm. So let's go read the first card.
I'm ready for it. Let's look at some magic cards. This is Doubling Season. This is a 5 mana enchantment that says, if an effect would put one or more tokens into play under your control, it puts twice that many into play instead. If an effect would place one or more counters on a permanent you control, it places twice that many on that permanent instead. So it just gives you double of whatever stuff you're making.
Correct. So either the tokens or the counters or both.
Okay, interesting. I do know Magic has a lot of like +1/+1 counters to like give stuff more stats.
Correct.
What other sort of counters are in the game, or like how does that work?
I think we once assembled a list of counters and there are like a few hundreds of them.
Oh
so
my God, really?
Lots of cards have different implications because it's the method of Magic to count things. It's like if you're taking up something, then you get counters. If you're making a countdown, you use counters. Stuff gets better or opponent stuff get worse.
Okay.
So it's a very common interaction that you encounter many different forms of counters.
Interesting. Because my first thought is seeing that this is a 5 mana spell that essentially does nothing when you play it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you pay the 5 mana, it goes onto the board, and then it doesn't do anything itself to like benefit from the doubling immediately. It doesn't give you counters, it doesn't give you tokens, it just sets up the future cards to be twice as good, essentially.
Correct.
So is it worth it for 5 mana to do that? Is that maybe too slow? It feels like it could be too slow. But double is a lot. It's not like make one extra token.
Well, sometimes it's
Or sometimes like
a lot of them.
I imagine there's cards that are like make 3 tutus or whatever.
Easily.
But yeah, so then it's like make 6 of them. That seems insane. That seems like a really strong effect. It's tough. It's tough to evaluate. I will say I think the word double seems really strong when you can just apply it to any other card in the game. There has to be some cards that just can take advantage of that in such a way that this must be at least a pretty good card. Even if it's not insanely broken, I would say there has to be a deck out there that would play this for 5 minutes.
So you say it is a?
Let's go staple.
All right. You are correct!
Yay!
Very good. Yes, you haven't found the reason because it's a bit innocuous for a non-Magic player. Have you heard of Planeswalkers?
I do know about Planeswalkers.
So they enter with counters that symbolize their life. And then they have 3 abilities, usually a minor advantage, something that's a minor downside, and then a big ultimate that is expensive.
So you play a Planeswalker with this, so it starts with twice the life?
Correct, which
That's
usually
crazy.
means they already can use the ultimate, which is bonkers.
That's, okay, yeah,
That
that's
is the
very
reason
cool.
why that card is very feared, because once you play this, you could just die next effect.
Wow.
And in addition to that, the token theme is very loved. As you said, there are many tokens, and it's hard to grasp how imaginably big double is.
That's what I like. There has to be cards that just like double is such a substantial amount
Yes.
that you're adding. Like it doesn't even make the card twice as good. It probably makes it 3 or 4 times as good.
And then
like,
you're obviously building your deck around the double, which means you're doubling the double thing. Kill on side, very big staple. Well done, 1-0 for you. Second card.
Second card, let's keep this party rolling. This is Final Fortune. This is a 2 mana red instant that says take an extra turn after this one. At the end of that turn, you lose the game. Wow. That is very high stakes effect.
Oh.
For sure. I do know about the power 9 that you guys showed me before. So
Yeah.
there is it's a blue spell that just gives you an extra turn.
It's basically 2 mana give an extra turn. Yes.
Yeah, so it's this without the downside.
The slight, tiny downside.
The slight downside of losing the entire game.
You could start the next one. So
Interesting.
You kind of won the game.
So I would be correct to say red is like the aggressive color.
Correct.
Because I've seen like lightning bolt and whatever.
Absolutely.
They do goblins. That's about as much as I know.
Yeah.
So,
Fast creatures, direct damage.
so is it enough to pay 2 mana and get an extra turn, but then you have to win that turn? An extra turn, that's a really strong effect. That's like maybe the best effect you could ever ask for.
It's at least drawing a card and then another attack. You can use your spells.
But the question is, are you showing me this card because it says take an extra turn on it and it's impossible for me to call that bad? This is actually a really tough one. It's very hard for me to evaluate this. Because even if you attack with all your creatures, yeah, and then you get an extra, but then you have to have the mana. Wait a minute. I'm almost there. If you need the 2 mana to play this, that is 2 mana you're not spending
This turn.
this turn.
Yeah, but next turn you get to untap all of it again.
Next turn you get the extra mana, but it's not really an extra turn if you're an aggro deck and you only have 3 or 4 mana.
You probably don't play it on turn 2. That is correct. Like you don't probably start with this extra turn.
Yes, absolutely.
There is a
not.
lot of range of application, like skill.
Definitely.
You are true. If you do it randomly, it's not the best card on earth.
Yeah, you have to plan it out. I don't know. This one's really tough. I'm having a really hard time
So
with
let
this
me
one.
ask you this just for my interest. If you translate this to Yu-Gi-Oh, would that be a good card?
Yes, because in Yu-Gi-Oh, a lot of the time you're winning in 1 turn anyway.
Yeah.
So if you could...
But what's the difference then of a turn?
Well, I think the difference of a turn here is in Yu-Gi-Oh! On your turn, you can play as many cards as you want, right? So if you get to have a full turn and then you just get to have a full other turn, that's like so much advantage, it would be impossible for anyone to come back from that. I'm trying to wrap my head around spending the 2 mana on it makes your turn worse to get a second turn. If it's turn 5, you can only spend 3 of your mana because then you need the other 2 for this, right? So you're not having like a turn 5, you're having a turn 3
Yes.
to then get a turn 5.
Yes.
So it's like a half extra turn, if that makes sense.
It makes sense.
But is that enough to make the card bad? Something's telling me this can't be good. Something is telling me you would rather just play stuff to kill your opponent and give them their turn and then let it pass back to you and you'll just kill them anyway. Without the downside of maybe losing the game if they counterspell you or something. I'm gonna say stinker. Even though it says take an extra turn on it, I might be crazy. I'm gonna say it's a stinker.
So, locked in.
Locked in.
You have not looked at one line which says instant, which means that you don't have to cast it in your turn, you can cast it in your opponent's turn.
Okay, so how does that work? Wait a minute.
No, I'm just messing with you. You still lose the game in your next turn.
Okay, I was gonna say, I was like, wait a minute.
I was
Does
just
that
trying
get
to
rid of
lose
the
you.
downside?
No, it's unfortunately, yeah, you're right, not good enough. It reads awesome and
Yeah.
it has this form of like, I can get them, you know? Like, maybe not this turn, I just needed one more turn. And how many games have you ended? It's like, next turn I would have won, right? This would have been the solution. The answer is, it's just not stable enough. Like, it costs you a card, you cannot cast it, it doesn't help you. And the most important thing you actually said is, if you're winning, you probably win anyway the next turn.
Right, yeah.
And this is the major difference to Yu-Gi-Oh! Because in that scenario, you usually don't. Because passing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is so much more crucial than imagine, like the difference of what they can do.
Yeah.
Everything is free, you can cast all your spells and traps and whatever. In Magic, they only have their mana and there's only so much they can do. It has been played a tiny amount in some of the like aggro decks if they really wanted one more turn, but
Super interesting card, but yeah, at the end of the day, that's what I was trying to figure out. I was like, I feel like you'd rather just have a card that says like, deal 6 damage on it or whatever.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, that will let you win next turn anyway, right? Yeah,
Very
that,
good.
That was a hard one. That was a really hard
good.
one.
Still, he was right, but we get closer.
Just barely. I had to talk myself through it a lot in order to get there.
Number 3.
Number 3, okay. Focus. Path to Exile is a 1-mana white instant, and this says exile target creature. Its controller may search his or her library for a basic land card, put that card onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle his or her library. And exile is like banish. It's like the graveyard beyond the graveyard.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, cool.
The VIP graveyard.
Yeah, you are never getting this back except for very specific situations.
Yes.
Kind of place. Cool. So you exile anything for 1 mana. That seems strong, but then they get a free land. That's also pretty tough to evaluate. So you're putting them a turn ahead, basically, in order to kill any creature that you want.
Correct.
Is that enough of a downside? Killing anything you want, not even killing, exiling.
Any creature.
Which is much better than just sending it to the graveyard, because things have graveyard effects, same as in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Absolutely.
I've seen.
Exiling is very important most of the formats you play.
Last time I saw Hogak,
Yep.
you exile Hogak.
Comes back from the graveyard.
That seems really good to exile it, then it can't get its effect, This has to be good, right? You give them a land. It can't be that bad to give your opponent a land. In my head, I'm like, it puts them a turn ahead, but also like you get to a certain point in the game where you're not, like maybe you miss your land drop on a turn, you're like, the lands become less important as the game goes on, but you're getting them to their stronger cards faster.
You could argue it's an opposite time walk in that sense because they get to have the land.
It's kind of giving them an extra turn, not quite, because I don't get to play more cards, but giving them the mana. Okay, but here's the question. You get to the point in a game of Magic where your cards can only cost so much. You get to a point where you don't really need to play more lands. So you play this late in the game on their really big stuff, and then it's almost like the downside doesn't even really matter.
At one point, you have too much mana.
Yeah.
There's nothing adding to it.
Forget about playing this on their small stuff in the early game. You play this in the late game when they already have like 8 or 9 lands or whatever, and you give them like a 10th one.
That doesn't matter.
I don't think you care at all. No. I think this has to be like really good. For 1 mana, exile anything, I think it's good. It has to be good. Staple card. Come on, tell it to me. Staple card.
So I can tell you there's a card that says for 1 white exile target creature, that controller gains that much life to power.
Okay.
Swords to Plowshares, very iconic.
So the same but with a different downside.
Yeah, they instead of getting a land, they get a life equal to the power.
Okay.
That card was very good. Okay. So they said if we want to make that card better in the sense of balance, what if we give them a land instead of life?
You're starting to worry me. I'm getting worried. Oh no.
And it turns out that the applications are still so flexible that this card is still very good.
Yes.
As you mentioned in the late game, the land doesn't really matter. And most of the decks, especially in a competitive format, are built around using their mana when they don't get the extra land. So they're built optimally, and then you give them a land, which makes it sometimes really annoying. Like, it's not a card that you can just fire off turn 1.
Right, exactly.
But it gives you the flexibility for using it if you really have to. 1 mana is so cheap, especially the aggressive decks. If they give you a land, let's say you go from 3 to 4, right? You get a third of your mana additionally. But in that sense, you only spend a third of your turn getting rid of something, dealing more damage while attacking.
Yeah.
Like, the balance is good. There's a case that actually sometimes is very important. You can also exile your own creatures to get a land. So it's in that sense a ramp spell for yourself.
Very cool.
Which is not the main idea, but definitely adds a little bit to it being the card as it is. And yeah, Commander players play it a lot.
1 mana. How could you not?
How could you not?
Exile anything.
He's too good.
Oh no. Hardest one yet?
This, I will not say anything. But this might get him.
Okay, this card is called Underworld Breach. Oh, this artwork is crazy. 2 mana red enchantment. Each non-land card in your graveyard has escape. The escape cost is equal to the card's mana cost plus exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. You may cast cards from your graveyard for their escape cost. Wow, I'm gonna have to read this like 3 more times.
So what it basically says is every card in your graveyard you can replay by costing the same as it would be, but also removing 3 cards from your graveyard.
Right. And then at the beginning of the end step, sacrifice Underworld Breach. So you can only do this for 1 turn.
Correct.
Oh man, this is a weird card. Oh boy. So you can replay stuff from your graveyard for its mana cost, plus
Anything you want.
exiling 3 other cards.
Yeah, the only downside is that you have to have more cards in your graveyard that
Right.
you remove as a cost as well.
So in a way, this is a little similar to Final Fortune in the way that it's kind of like endgame, last hurrah, let me throw this down and replay my stuff and
Yeah.
try and finish the game.
If you have a good setup, then
Yeah.
you can probably make something happen this turn enough that there is no next turn.
Yeah, phew, I don't know about this one. This seems very specific. What a weird card. So the question is, how much stuff do you have in your graveyard that you're going to replay with this? This card itself costs 2 mana. That's why this is going to be difficult for me to figure out. There's so much mana to play with that it's like you pay 2 for this, plus whatever the mana cost of the stuff in your graveyard is, plus 3 cards for every card is exiled. So then you need to have a certain amount of cards in the first place just to be able to exile them. This seems impossible to evaluate. Oh my God. So, okay. Let's think about the course of a game, which I don't know what the course of a normal Magic game is, so that makes this very difficult also. But if you just have like all your small stuff, your 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, it all goes to the graveyard. Eventually you get to this, you can replay those, but you don't really want to replay those because they're like small stuff you don't really care about anymore. So it almost have to be like a graveyard focused, like mill kind of deck where you just throw stuff in the grave and then you want to play it later. But if you're doing that, you still have to pay the mana for it, even from your graveyard? That doesn't seem very good. It can't be, right? I'm gonna say it's not good. I'm gonna say this is a stinker. I don't see it. I don't see why you would want to cheat stuff back from your graveyard, but still have to pay for it, and also only be able to do it for 1 turn.
Right.
Like if this stuck around for like the rest of the game, maybe. But this destroys itself at the end of your turn. It can't be good. This can't be good. I'm saying stinker. I'm saying stinker.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Would that card be good in Yu-Gi-Oh?
Here's the thing, in Yu-Gi-Oh! We play all our cards from the graveyard anyway, from their own effects. they all come back from the graveyard on their own. We don't need a card like this.
But they're all specific for their, like...
The difference is we don't have mana. So that's the part I'm hung up on. Like,
Yes, the difference is you don't have mana. So let me tell you, what if you don't need mana? I've looked at your staple stinkers and what you know about Magic. There are cards which are so good, maybe they cost 0 and make you mana.
okay.
Or maybe they cost very cheap and give you extra turns.
Okay.
Or maybe they make mana and add cards to the graveyard.
Sure.
Yeah. You have to kind of split the card into 2 scenarios, which you did, and you said the value part of that card isn't really good. Which is true. Sometimes it's like a one-off in a deck where when you draw it late in the game, you can replay a lot of your card drawing spells, something that is cheap.
Right.
That is an okay application. The card is bonkers when you plan around it. And that usually means you play a lot of very cheap cards that either make you mana or fill the graveyard. It's very trivial to fill your graveyard if you have access to a lot of cards and then get the mana to do something better. It's tricky because for a non-Magic player, the mana cost is so hard to evaluate.
It is, and I think I underestimated how easy it is to put things in the grave. And also I was very much tunneled in on thinking about creatures for some reason.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about like card draw, like sorceries or like all that kind of combo potential this has. So that does make a lot of sense the way you explained it.
If you build it correctly, unbeatable.
So the problem is, if this would have said double the effects of the cards in your graveyard, then I would have known. Then I would have known it was a good card.
So here's-
it doesn't have the word double on it. That's the problem.
It actually, and this is kind of something you can't know, but it's a right point. It doesn't say double, but if you play a card again, you get twice the value.
Yeah.
Normally, they've learned that when you have those effects, the cards that get put into the graveyard are exiled, so you can't use them again. They didn't put it on this card. So secretly, this card actually doesn't read double, it reads infinite.
Because you recast it and it
still goes to the graveyard.
Oh my god.
So
that's crazy.
Yeah, in between the line it says double, triple, quadruple because you're just obviously you're doing the same stuff that you're doing anyway, and you can just repeat it.
I honestly didn't even realize that was also the case, that it would just go back and then you could just do it over. That's so good.
We got him.
You got me. You
All
got
right.
me on that one for sure.
Last one to redeem.
Last card. we can still do pretty good here. This is Soul Talisman. This is an artifact which is colorless, if I'm right.
Yep, no colors.
Very cool. To spend 3, I don't know what that means, but we'll find out. And 1 mana. Rather than cast this card from your hand, pay 1 and exile it with 3 time counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove a time counter. When the last is removed, cast it without paying its mana cost. And then after 20 years, when it finally hits the field, you can tap it for 2 colorless mana, I assume, is that what that is?
Correct. So just to explain a little bit, it doesn't have a mana cost. You can't play it normally. It's in your hand, you have to suspend it. Then it gets the time counters, you get it eventually, and then it makes you 2 mana. If you had heard of the card Soul Ring, this is basically
I did see Soul Ring last time.
a nerfed version of Soul Ring.
So it's a Soul Ring that you get 3 turns from now.
Yes. This much I give you.
Yeah. I don't know if that's good enough. 3 turns feels like a long time. I mean, 3 turns in Yu-Gi-Oh! The game's over.
Right.
You're already done. You're packed up, you're moving on to the next match. I feel like there's gotta be better stuff to be doing than that, right? Yes, getting 2 mana from 1 artifact seems good. Soul Ring, obviously, very good.
One of the best, maybe the best, depending on how you look, card of all time.
Yeah, and that's, but is that good enough like 3 turns from now? That just feels like such a long time. So much happens in 3 turns. With my limited knowledge of the Magic card pool, of the like 30 cards I've probably seen since I've been here, I have to assume there's something better to be doing with your turn and with your time than investing 3 turns from now, I'll be able to make 2 mana. We actually have a similar card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Called Gold Sarcophagus, which lets you banish a card from your deck, and then 2 turns later you get it to your hand. Similar, but it's a choice of any card you want out of your deck. And honestly, the main synergy with that is cards that get effects when they're banished, you can just banish them from your deck and get the effect immediately. So you get instant value anyway. It's not really about getting the card in 2 turns, because like I say, in Yu-Gi-Oh! 2 turns later, the game's probably almost over.
There is ways that you can cast cards without using the mana cost. The same effect that you would say has, I get the banish effect now, are here. For example, if something asks you to play a card, if you're not actively casting, but it asks you, do you want to cast this? It does cost 0.
Using an effect of another card to play this out for free. I don't know if I'm buying that. That's not entirely convincing me. I don't know. Something in my heart is telling me waiting 3 turns for a Soul Ring is not
Some
quite.
people have waited their whole life for a Soul Ring.
I think it's not quite good enough. I think I'm gonna go with Stinker on this one. But you feel free to tell me that I'm wrong. Go ahead.
Magic has a broad history of cards that are way too powerful, trying to nerf them and bring versions of them which are fixed.
Of course.
And then they're still powerful. Like Path of Exile, for example.
Gotcha.
Remember, it was the other card, this from Underworld Breach, from Yakmo's Spill. And so they tried it with Soul Talisman, which was their fix of Soul Ring. Unfortunately for you, it was never played.
Yeah, let's go.
They actually hit the right spot where I think you can look at it and want to play it, and it's kind of a Soul Ring in the future. You can even play around a little bit. Maybe you can cast it for free through other cards that let you cast something. There's a thing that reveals the top card of your library and you can cast it from them. Like, there's a lot of deck building applications, but nevertheless, it never got to a point where people are super excited about it.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, as you said, a stinker.
Woohoo!
Wow, yeah. This was the hardest selection so far.
Yeah, that was really tough.
By
Those were
any
much
of the-
harder.
Thank you for being here. If you want to see more of Taylor, you can look at the Yu-Gi-Oh! Host channel. It's linked at least in the description.
All over the place.
Yes. And see you next time around for a new Stable Stinker.
Underworld Breach, what a crazy card.
If you asked like the better the players and you show them the card, because they know the history and what you can achieve with it, but it's not reasonable.